Now, coming to the one aspect that has I have not talked about, there are these annual exhibitions, there are these first prize and second prize, and there are these national awards in the country. First of all, I must say that the national exhibitions that are held by government organization, and there is a quota system. Some paintings from Punjab, from Peshawar, from Quetta, from Karachi have to come and they have to be displayed, because otherwise the quota system will be disturbed, and then some prizes have to be given to Punjab and to Sindh and to Balochistan, and if Balochistan and Sindh don't have artists, they have installed special awards which are called the Mehran Award and the Bolan Award, to be given to nobodies who don't deserve it. Same is the case with National Award. There are just about 50 working painters, out of which 10 are good, and if these awards are given, they should be given to the same person over and over again, because the others are not coming and outwitting the others, and now the judges are finding it difficult to give these awards. The problem with national award like Pride of Performance, Tamga Imtiaz, Sitare Imtiaz, this is very complex, and I have my definite views. When I came in 67, I was given Pride of Performance, and I didn't know much about it, but I accepted that award without knowing the significance of it, and eventually I regretted. After that, I was given Tamga Imtiaz, which I refused to accept, and the government was not prepared to accept my refusal. So I didn't take the award. I didn't go for the award, and eventually they announced it that I was sick and that I should get the award. I was given the award, and head of the Punjab University Fine Art Department took the award on my behalf, against my telegrams and letters which I sent to government that I don't work for rewards and awards. My reward is the satisfaction. My award is the satisfaction that I get out of my work, and I don't want any of these rewards, because I don't think I deserve these awards, and it should go to the better person than I am. Even after my rejection of this award, 2 years later, they gave me Qaid-e-Azam award with a price of 25,000 rupees. I refused to accept that, and I didn't take it. And yet they say that the money is lying and the reward is there. You may reject it, but we have given it, and you have to bloody well take it. I can't understand this workings of the government department and the way they work, and then I find that they don't accept it. My rejection of the award does not, I still am winner of Pride of Performance and Qaid-e-Azam Award and Tamga Imtiaz, and they write in my letters these things which annoys me. Not that I'd want to insult the national honors that the nation wants to confer on me, but I feel that people have a right not to be to accept a reward or a grant or money that the government wants is pleased enough to give. And the worst part of it is that in the last 30 years, they have given award to those persons who should not get an award at all. And they are having, because of their PR and contacts of the government. So the whole concept is becoming very, and then there are so many, so few artists and writers that you can't give pride of performance that is for the excellence. And where is excellence in the person who are getting these performances? A teacher, a nurse, or a not that teaching is not a noble profession, but where are those dedicated teachers and nurses who have contributed great thing? Or where are those sportsmen? You just play cricket and you play, but excellence is something which is a most outstanding quality, which should be given only occasionally, not to everyone. But they are giving it to everybody, and these processes are going. People are getting misguided, and then they try to maneuver to get these awards and rewards, which is so very unfortunate. As a matter of fact, I feel that these awards should be stopped. If anything, they should give a lump sum of 2 lakhs or 5 lakhs for a year or two to a very deserving artist or musician or poet or writer, so that he can really live a peaceful life. Giving a silver medal or an award which they put in their collar, in their buttonhole, is not the real appreciation of their work. it should be a substantial amount, and it should not be given as a award or reward. It should be just given to somebody so that he can live for 1 or 2 years, or a professorship or something like that, so that they get 5 or 10,000 a year for the rest of their life, so that they can work and add something more. But these are some of the things. Coming back to the situation in art, my talk has been rather very frustrating. I am not a pessimist. I feel that a beginning has been made, and now the crisis of identity and crisis of creativity is beginning to be felt by the artist. They know that they are derivative. They have come to realize that they are shortcomings, but the manure that is to be given to them in their education at art school is becoming from bad to worse. But with this realization, I think at least some of the artists who are working are having a rethought, and if they are gifted with inner process of creativity, I feel that there is a hope, and at least we should try for that. In India, things are taking a shape where identity is coming. In Latin America, it was European who went there, and there is a Latin American art. In Australia, there is an Australian art, and in America, there is an American identity of the art. Why can't we have it while we have it in our dancer, in our poets, in our musicians? Why can't we have a sort of identity? I don't say that it should be a renaissance or revival of the old art, but I think if we go into our roots in our racial and collective subconscious, if we study our philosophy, if we become well versed with our own literature, if we become well versed with our own religious aspect of life, if we become well versed with the historic growth of our subcontinent's architecture, art, and other artifacts, and if we also study the Western thought and Western philosophy, how when Picasso took Cubism from African art, he didn't become an African painter. When Paul Klee came to Algeria with Maquet, he painted calligraphic pages, and he didn't become Algerian. He remained very much German, and Picasso remained very much Spanish and French in his work. Matisse, when he took from Persian carpets, he remained very much French, and Van Gogh, when he took from Japanese woodcut and he put those things, and modern painter took from Japanese woodcut, they don't become Japanese painter. We become little Picassos and little Braques and little Matisse and little Van Goghs and little action painters. This is something that is to be thought and rearranged and worked out, and I'm sure later generation of painters to come in the next 20 or 30 years will find their bearing and will be able to do and produce work which will be of significance, and we will have something which we can call our own, and growth of mind could take place. As a matter of fact, the imperial yoke has not yet ended. We are so much under the influence of the West. Our national bourgeoisie, our importer and exporters are agents of West. We are more under West today than we were ever before, because this trading economy of our bourgeoisie, of our feudal landlords, of our businessmen, we are completely subservient to the West. We are bottling and assemblage plants for Japan and Europe and everything, and our real growth is in the terms of VCR, cars and television and a little bit of modern living. But I think a reaction will come when the higher values of our own antecedents will reign supreme, and we will come to a point where this degenerate culture and mode of life that we are living in, this degenerate mode of thought process that we are finding even our creative thinker, will disintegrate, and new values will emerge, and new order must come, and it has to come, and it has to come from the soil. And unless we bring about changes in our method of teaching, in our mode of life, in our way of reading habits, in our way of acquiring knowledge, things will be difficult, but it will come. And my optimism will sure prevail one day, and better thought process in our way of living and thinking will come. As I mentioned earlier, that in my meandering through history of art and history of thought, I got interested in archaeology, and with my very limited meager income, I have now collected over 2,500 objects which are of different periods and different countries, of 40 countries roughly, and they form a climate of work in my studio. I have also acquired over 100 paintings of my contemporaries during the last 20 years, which is also a part of my. I don't possess a house, I live in an apartment, so my paintings are lying up on the top of wardrobes undisplayed, and I would wish to enjoy them. But my antiquities are housed in a small room, which also happens to be my studio. Now the question arises that all my friends, they come as I'm in my studio and they see and enjoy that, but after me, what is going to happen to these antiquities? This issue raises many points. One is that there are so many museums in Pakistan. The miniatures of Lahore museums were copied, and the original sold. Malik Shams was the curator then in the early part of Pakistan. There were 21 Ragnis and 19 night scenes. I asked the question, where are they? I was told later on that they made a swap with the Indian government, and that they took some other things from them. When I went and saw the swap, that was absolute degenerate art of the decaying Mughal period, with all those manneristic white jewelry and very poor things, against something which was most outstanding of the Rajasthani period, in which rags were improvised, there were night scenes, there were symbolic paintings which were excellent. I made notes of them in 53, 54 and also on the Ragnis, which somehow there seemed to have disappeared. Later on I discovered that there was never a swap between India and Pakistan as far as the antiquities were concerned. The only thing that happened, that whatever went in 1946 to India never came back, and there later on there was never a swap. Now I was told that a few golden jewelry from Texla museums were stolen. Then number of original paintings were replaced by copies done by Sheikh Shujaullah and Aftab Ahmed and Haji Muhammad Sharif. And these paintings were sold at a very modest price of 300 to 400 rupees in the 50s. And these paintings are worth about 100,000 rupees today in the international market. Certain things were also taken away from the, what you call the Mohenjo-daro Museum, and I myself bought 3 seals of Mohenjo-daro from the Karachi Museum. One of the person came, he was selling it to somebody else. I bought 3 seals and about 21 objects, which one of the person from there came and gave them to me. I bought them because if I had not bought them, somebody else would have bought them. So these thefts are taking place in even Lahore Museum and Karachi Museum and places like that. I always thought of giving these antiquities to Karachi University, these 3,000-4,000 objects that I have, and the 120 paintings after my death. But then I feel that if from the guarded houses of the museums things can go out, they can certainly go out from the university. But then a medium way is to be found, and so far my children are young. I am a heart patient. I had 2 open heart surgeries, and there's no fault of theirs that they are young. It is my late marriage which has left the children young with my heart condition. So in case I die early, I'll want it all to go to my wife and children, and they can keep it, they can sell it, or they can donate it to anybody they like. But if by the time I die, my children and all are settled, I will still feel like giving it to the Karachi University. If they can house it and can protect it, I'll be very happy. But if they can't, even if my wife and children keep and sell it away to make a living, that is worse than half of it being stolen from a place that is parked. And I'll want it to go to the Karachi University, if they will be happy to keep them, and maybe get more donation from other people and convert it into a larger thing. But one person is needed there who will be interested in it, and if that one person takes interest and catalogs it, and today we have got the best way of video cassetting it. My whole thing has been video cassetted, and it is preserved with me. And they can also do it, and there could be honest people. The only thing that can happen, this I am giving as a warning, that a original miniature can be replaced by a copy of it, Unisa Gandhara can be replaced by a copy of it. But these things happen around the world. It has happened in Europe, it has happened in the best museums, and from private collections things are stolen. So for that reason I am not backward. But then my first choice will be to go to my wife and children, and if they want to donate it further, they will donate it to Karachi University, where if people work intelligently, ways can be found that they are not pilfered. And even if they are pilfered, I would say that somebody needy and wanting to have them will have it. Otherwise, nobody would like to steal them. So this is the predicament. I mean, Faizi Rahman's gallery, as you know, was a trust property, and it was beautifully received by the country after their death, and they made Denso halls, housed it and air conditioned it. And after about 7-8 years, it fell to pieces. The air conditioner stopped. They had to lock the gallery and keep the thing not properly conservated, preserved, and a lot of it has been pilfered or destroyed, or I think certainly damaged, because quite a lot of those were certificates and paintings on papers, and also old carpets and other dresses and things like that, which are subject to decay if they are not kept in proper condition of room temperature and protected from insects and things like that. And so many things, even in the Karachi Museum, they have got so many of miniatures. They have displayed only just about 20 or 30 of them. They are lying in their stone rooms, tied up in chadars, and so many Gandharan pieces and all are there. They are lying in the storerooms and are not displayed properly. And if they are displayed in museums like Taxila, and also in places like Badin and in Umarkot and a number of other places, the ventilation and climatic condition is too bad for them, and they are going from bad to worse. The thieving is there, the replacement of old by new is there, and the way they are catalogued. Actually, there is a UNESCO international way of cataloging things. They make 5 copies of each document, and it is kept with 5 different persons, so that in order to steal, all the 5 of them have to collude with each other, before they can be done. And this accession registers is made with photographs, transparencies and video films and kept at 5 different places: Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Culture, Ministry of Education, Ministry of this auditor and all that, who come and check the actual stock that is there, and then with the museum, curator of the museum, keeper of the museum. So 5-6 copies are made, so that these things are the whole gang has to come and pilfer them or collude to remove them. Otherwise, things in the third world are there. I mean, even from Afghanistan, things from the museums are being stolen and being brought here, and from here they are being transferred to the world around. Gandharas is being transferred in trucks and tons to Japan and Germany, where what you buy for 3,000 is sold for 30,000 Deutschmark or 30,000 pounds. So it is big money in it, and the custom and the bureaucracy and everybody is colluding with each other, and these treasures are getting out. I will say that if they have to go out, they should go against hard currency. Let the country at least turn the foreign exchange. But that the government is not interested, in spite of it trying for the last 20 years. Justice Nana Pyare Lila, we all tried with the government, let's open 2 shops and sell them against hard currency, against the best bidder, so we earn the foreign exchange, because this is going out in any case. So these are the situations as far as private collectors and things are concerned. I think we should have societies like the Friends of the Tate Gallery, Friends of the National Gallery, Friends of such and such, where important citizens of the country form a committee and they get things donated to the museum. And they get funds for the museum, they get extra rooms for the museum, and that brings about a qualitative change in the what you call quality of and standard of the museum. A person like Dr. Salim-ur-Zaman or Faiz Ahmad Faiz, if they were to go to certain people who had unusual thing and make a request, I'm sure they will loan it for a year or 2 years or 5 years or a permanent loan. That sort of thing can happen even in our country. Instead of those things being sold by the children to at throwaway price without knowing what they are. Sometimes such collections, the only one person in the family knows about them and others don't know their importance, their period, their significance, and they sell it for song. And most of my collection that I bought in Karachi are bought for a song. I'm not a rich man. I go to nursery every day, and there is something or other that comes that the shopkeeper doesn't know. If he knows, he charges wants the fortune, but he doesn't know I can buy it for a throwaway price. So in this way, the museums and private collections can be done. Now, I have got friends who have collected huge amount of antiquities, and they are rich, and 2 of them are thinking in terms of donating their own things, and they want to build museums for the nation and keep it till they are alive and then give it to the nation for that. And there can be many others who can follow suit, because Pakistan needs not 1 museum or 2 museums, but many museums. There are 29 museums in a small city like Amsterdam. There are hundreds of things in Paris and in Rome and in London. You can pass a month visiting one important place every day. So you can pass even 3 months going different places and find things of historical importance. We have this stupid building of Karachi Museum, which houses only a fragment of what we have in our museums. And a museum should be nationally controlled and not provincially controlled, which unfortunately they are doing. And things from one museum, extra things from one museum should be transferred to the National Museum of other cities. Unfortunately, this chauvinism is getting the upper hand, and they are trying to denationalize the museum and provincialize them so that the things from one museum do not go to the other. These are some of the problems of museums and collections, and if some thought is given and committees are made to think in terms of rationalizing the things that are already there, cataloging them and um, working out a system into person like me who have got it just stored like a junk shop in their house, and one takes pride in this disorderliness by saying that, well, I like it that way, but that way is not the right way. It's not the right way of conservation, preservation and all that, and it's subject to decay. So those aspects of conservation and preservation should also go into it, and museum should have the strong department of conservation and preservation, which is of very great importance, more important than collecting the things, because if you don't conserve and preserve them, they will be ruined. Let's hope ours is a young country, and it's a country of getting rich too soon and only caring about the artificial values of life. Let's cultivate some sense, and these discussions can take place in radio and television. Seminars can be held and widely talked about, rather than the speeches of the ministers that made on the seminars. The actual content of the seminar should be highlighted in a crisp manner so that public knows about the problems of health, problems of hygiene, problem of education, problem of transport, problem of art, of literature, of music, of drama and theatre. These are the things that should be discussed in Kasauti or in Nilamgarh, rather than just a stupid girl singing and dancing and silly jokes made and certain information passed. The best information is always ignored, and they think it is too subtle. But if it is to be made public, I think a serious change in our this communication revolution that has taken place due to video cassettes or television or radio, the maximum benefit can go to the society, and real cultivation of people could be done, which I hope will be done, but I will not be there to enjoy and watch it and see it.